Picture the worst night of illness you've had in the last few years. Fever, an upset stomach, that bone-deep exhaustion, where you'd try almost anything to feel human again. Now take away the pharmacy, take away the hospital, the pain reliever in the medicine cabinet, even the corner store. That was ordinary life for most people in the Bible, and yet, when you read the text closely, they were rarely helpless. Scripture keeps quietly recording exactly what people reached for during their worst moments. Soldiers on brutal campaigns, kings on their deathbeds, mothers exhausted from labor, prophets pleading for relief. And when you line those recorded remedies up against modern research, an uncomfortable number of them turn out to be legitimately effective. I want to walk you through 10 of these crisis drinks today, pulled from all over Scripture, none of them symbolic window dressing. Stick with me for 2, because it comes from one of the most quoted verses in the entire Bible, a verse about being made clean, and what it actually does to the lungs will change how you read that verse forever. And don't leave before 10, tied to one of the most famous bad decisions in Genesis, a bowl of stew that cost a man his birthright. It turns out his instincts about that stew were dead right. Let's get into it. 1. Vinegar and Water. At the crucifixion, Matthew 27:48 records that someone gave him vinegar to drink. Most people read that line as an act of cruelty, one final small torment. It wasn't. Vinegar diluted with water, called posca, was the standard daily drink of Roman soldiers. It's what entire legions drank on long campaigns, and offering it to a dying man was, if anything, closer to standard field practice than mockery. The habit shows up elsewhere in Scripture too. In Ruth 2:14, where Boaz offers Ruth bread dipped in wine vinegar during the barley harvest. Tough, practical soldiers who needed to survive unsanitary conditions for months at a time chose this drink for a reason, and modern microbiology explains exactly what that reason was. Both apple cider vinegar and wine vinegar contain acetic acid, which has documented antimicrobial effects against common gut pathogens like E. coli and Salmonella. In a world without clean water infrastructure, a small amount of vinegar stirred into water was genuine protection against waterborne illness, not just a taste preference. The modern research goes further than that, though. Multiple clinical trials have shown that drinking diluted vinegar before meals measurably lowers post-meal blood sugar spikes in people dealing with insulin resistance or type 2 diabetes, largely by slowing how quickly glucose is absorbed from the gut. It also appears to support beneficial gut bacteria and strengthen the intestinal lining. To make it, stir 1 to 2 tablespoons of raw, unfiltered apple cider vinegar, the kind with the cloudy mother still in it, into a glass of water and drink it before meals. If the sharpness is too much, a small spoon of raw honey smooths it right out. I'll admit, I used to file apple cider vinegar under fad diet culture until I found out Roman soldiers were drinking a version of it 2,000 years before wellness influencers ever discovered it. From a soldier's ordinary drink, let's move to something considerably more symbolic and considerably more literal. At exactly the same time. 2. Hyssop cleansing drink. Purge me with hyssop, and I shall be clean. Wash me, and I shall be whiter than snow. Psalm 7 is one of the most quoted verses in the entire Bible, written by David after what he considered the deepest moral failure of his life. When he reached for an image of cleansing strong enough to match that weight, he didn't reach for water or oil. He reached specifically for hyssop. That single word choice tells you a great deal about what hyssop meant in the ancient world, and modern chemistry backs up exactly why he picked it. Hyssop contains carvacrol, thymol, pinocamphone, and isopinocamphone, a concentrated blend of volatile oils that are among the most potent natural antimicrobials and expectorants ever studied. Clinical research has shown hyssop extract has direct antiviral activity, and its expectorant compounds actively loosen and clear mucus from the sinuses and bronchial passages, which is exactly why it was historically used for chronic congestion, post-illness coughs, and seasonal colds. As a cleansing drink, stronger than a simple tea, hyssop was traditionally prepared as a cold infusion left to steep overnight, which preserves more of its delicate volatile compounds than boiling water would. Steep a tablespoon of dried hyssop in 2 cups of cold water for 8 hours, strain, then warm it very gently, never boiling, and finish with raw honey and a squeeze of lemon. 1 cup in the morning, 1 in the evening, for about a week during illness or at the change of seasons. I find it genuinely striking that David reached for a real, working respiratory and antimicrobial herb as his metaphor for spiritual cleansing. He wasn't picking a random plant. He was picking the strongest cleansing agent he knew of. The people using hyssop back then didn't have clinical trials. What they had was generations of careful, repeated observation, and it turns out that was enough to get the science right, thousands of years ahead of the lab work that would eventually confirm it. Let's stay in the world of grain and humble ingredients for a moment, because the next drink was made from the food Jesus used to feed 5,000 people. 3. Barley Water. There is a lad here who has 5 barley loaves and 2 fish. John 6. 9 is the detail most people skip on their way to the miracle. Barley was the grain of ordinary people, the food of laborers, the poor, and soldiers on campaign, not wheat, which was reserved for those with money. It turns out those ordinary people were drinking one of the most therapeutically effective grain-based waters ever studied. Barley's harvest season also frames the entire story of Ruth, whose gleaning in the barley fields is where she first meets Boaz. Barley water, made by simmering whole barley in water and drinking the resulting liquid, concentrates the grain's beta-glucan content into an easily absorbed form. Beta-glucan is a soluble fiber with evidence strong enough that, in the United States, the FDA allows a specific cholesterol-related health claim on food products that contain it. It forms a gel inside the gut that slows glucose absorption, lowers LDL cholesterol, feeds beneficial bacteria, and supports immune function. Research comparing it to other grain waters has found barley water actually has a lower impact on post-meal blood sugar than oat water, which already has a strong reputation for heart health. It's also a solid source of magnesium, phosphorus, and B vitamins. And because some of the fiber stays suspended in the water, even after straining, there's genuine therapeutic value in the liquid alone, not just the grain itself. To make it, simmer a cup of hulled barley in several cups of water for about an hour, then strain. Add lemon and a touch of raw honey, if you'd like, and drink it warm or cool throughout the day. This was historically used for kidney support, recovering from fevers, and general convalescence, and in the era before modern pharmaceuticals, hospitals routinely served barley water to recovering patients as standard practice. I didn't grow up thinking of barley as anything more than soup filler, so learning it had its own dedicated medicinal tradition changed how I look at my pantry. From the grain that fed 5,000, let's move to the plant Jesus used to describe himself directly. 4. Unfermented grape juice. I am the vine. You are the branches. John 15:5 uses one of the most agriculturally central plants in the ancient world to describe the relationship between Jesus and his followers. The vine shows up constantly across Scripture, starting as early as Genesis 9:20, where Noah plants a vineyard as his very first recorded act after the flood, and threading all the way through the imagery of the Song of Solomon. Fresh grape juice, especially dark grape juice pressed with the skins left in, contains resveratrol, quercetin, and anthocyanins in concentrations high enough that it's become one of the most studied beverages in longevity research. Resveratrol activates proteins called sirtuins, associated with cellular repair and extended lifespan, and it's been one of the more genuinely exciting compounds in aging research for the better part of 2 decades. The skins and seeds hold the highest concentration of these compounds, so fresh, whole-pressed juice gives you the full range of polyphenols, alongside potassium, vitamin C, and vitamin K. Research has linked it to better arterial health, reduced LDL oxidation, lower blood pressure, and reduced inflammatory markers. The main difference from wine, obviously, is the absence of alcohol, meaning essentially the same antioxidant profile without any of the neurological effects that come with ethanol. To make it, press fresh dark grapes. Concord or any dark-skinned variety works, without straining out the skins, and drink it within about 24 hours, while the more volatile compounds are still active. In the ancient world, this drink was only available seasonally, right at harvest, and that scarcity is part of why it was treated with something close to reverence, rather than taken for granted the way we take grape juice for granted today, sitting shelf-stable in a bottle year-round. Would you value your morning glass of juice more if you knew it would only exist for a few weeks a year? From something fleeting and seasonal, let's move to a drink built for exactly the opposite situation. Long, grueling journeys where nothing could be left to chance. 5. Ginger and honey brew. Ginger moved constantly along ancient trade routes, prized as spice, medicine, and even currency, and it shows up in the broader category of aromatic goods that Jacob sent as gifts down to Egypt in Genesis 43. Nearly every culture that traded in ginger, Hebrew, Egyptian, Greek, Persian, Indian, used it for the exact same core purposes: digestion, pain relief, infection, and inflammation. Modern research on ginger genuinely holds up as some of the most impressive work in food science. Gingerols and shogales, its active compounds, have been shown in clinical trials to lower inflammatory markers, including CRP and TNF-alpha. In direct clinical comparisons, ginger has performed about as well as ibuprofen for menstrual pain. It's been shown to reduce nausea effectively in chemotherapy patients, pregnant women, and people recovering from surgery. It also stimulates digestive enzymes, speeds up gastric emptying, and carries its own direct antimicrobial effects. Pair it with raw honey, and you get one of the most therapeutically complete hot drinks that exists. Ginger's anti-inflammatory compounds work alongside honey's antioxidants for broad protection, while the antimicrobial properties of each reinforce the other. To make it, slice or grate a generous thumb of fresh ginger into 2 cups of water. Bring it to a gentle simmer for 15 to 20 minutes. Then strain into a mug. Let it cool slightly, since adding honey to boiling liquid destroys some of its beneficial enzymes. Then stir in a generous tablespoon of raw honey. This is genuinely the drink I reach for first the moment I feel a cold coming on, before anything else in the kitchen. It's also become my default after a heavier meal, since it noticeably takes the edge off that overly full feeling. Ancient trade routes crossed entire deserts and mountain ranges to keep this route moving from one civilization to the next. Based on what we now know it can do, that effort tracks completely. Let's slow down for a moment, because the next drink shares an ingredient with two, but does something almost entirely different with it. 6. Hyssop Tea. We already met hyssop earlier on this list as a stronger, overnight cleansing infusion tied to David's plea in Psalm 51. But hyssop shows up elsewhere in Scripture too, most strikingly at the very first Passover, where bundles of it were used to apply blood to the doorposts, in Exodus 12:22, and again at the crucifixion, where a sponge was offered to Jesus on a hyssop branch. For a long time, all of this was treated as purely ceremonial. Then researchers actually analyzed hyssop and discovered the symbolism was built on something genuinely functional. It contains carvacrol and thymol, the same antimicrobial compounds responsible for the strength of oregano and thyme, two of the most powerful natural antiseptics we know of. Studies confirm hyssop carries real antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal properties, including documented activity against the herpes simplex virus, and its expectorant compounds help clear mucus from the lungs. Paired with mint, which relaxes smooth muscle in the digestive tract, reducing cramping and spasms, and carries its own antimicrobial properties. This tea works on the gut and the respiratory system at the same time, in a much gentler, everyday way than the stronger cleansing version. To make it, steep a teaspoon each of dried hyssop and fresh or dried mint in boiling water for 10 minutes. Strain, and drink hot with a little raw honey stirred in. This version was used across the ancient world for coughs, colds, digestive upset, and as a simple, pleasant morning tea, something meant for daily use rather than only during a health crisis. It's worth pausing on this. The purification rituals in Leviticus weren't abstract spiritual metaphors dressed up as hygiene instructions. They were genuinely practical instructions that happened to also carry spiritual weight. God's instructions worked on both levels at once. From a tea meant for daily maintenance, let's shift to the single most basic staple drink in the ancient world, literally the first thing Scripture mentions when it wants to describe a land of abundance. 7. Goat milk and honey. That land flowing with milk and honey wasn't flowing with what most of us picture when we hear the word milk. There was no pasteurized, homogenized, vitamin-fortified milk from an industrial dairy in the ancient Middle East. The milk of that world was almost entirely goat's milk, mentioned explicitly in Proverbs 27:27, where a household is promised goat's milk enough for your food, and it behaves in a genuinely different way inside the human gut than the cow's milk. Most of us grew up drinking. Goat's milk has smaller fat globules and a different protein structure than cow's milk. Its dominant protein is A2 casein rather than the A1 casein found in most commercial cow's milk, and A1 casein is exactly the protein many researchers believe triggers the inflammatory digestive reaction so many people associate with general dairy intolerance. Ever notice how some people who can't handle a glass of cow's milk do just fine with goat cheese? The protein structure is very likely why. Fresh, traditionally produced goat's milk is also naturally rich in beneficial bacteria, functioning in its raw form, almost like a living probiotic food. Research confirms goat's milk is easier to digest for people who struggle with cow's milk, produces a smaller inflammatory response in the gut lining, and has a prebiotic effect that supports beneficial gut bacteria. Its calcium, phosphorus, and magnesium are all highly bioavailable, and it contains medium-chain fatty acids, particularly caprylic acid, with documented antimicrobial and antifungal properties. Add raw honey to that mix, and you get a drink that is simultaneously probiotic, prebiotic, antimicrobial, and deeply mineral-rich, all at once. It was consumed across the ancient world as a morning tonic, a recovery drink after illness, and a daily staple for both young children and the elderly, the two groups whose digestive systems need the most support. To make it, warm the milk gently, never boiling, and stir in a tablespoon of raw honey. Drink it the way it was drunk in the land of promise. Slowly, and without rushing. There's something worth noticing in the fact that the very first description of abundance in the Bible is, essentially, a description of gut health. Milk and honey wasn't a metaphor for luxury. It was a description of a body being properly nourished. Now let's talk about a drink made from the driest, most shriveled-looking fruit on this entire list, and somehow still one of the most effective. 8. Raisin Water. Raisins show up across Scripture as concentrated, portable nutrition, the shelf-stable form of the grape that armies and pilgrims carried across the ancient world without worrying about spoilage. 1 Chronicles 12:40 even lists raisin cakes among the provisions brought to David's army. What most people don't realize is that soaking raisins overnight and drinking the water they've steeped in creates one of the most effective traditional liver tonics history has handed down to us. That soaking water concentrates tartaric acid and potassium bitartrate pulled from the grape skins, compounds that stimulate bile production and support the liver enzyme activity involved in detoxification. Research on raisin consumption has shown measurable improvements in liver function markers. The natural sugars, combined with the fiber compounds that leach out during soaking, provide real energy with a gentler glycemic response than you'd expect from something this sweet. Raisins are also a meaningful source of iron, which is exactly why raisin water has functioned as a traditional remedy for iron deficiency, anemia for centuries. The polyphenols that survive the drying process, particularly resveratrol and quercetin, are actually more concentrated per gram in raisins than in fresh grapes. The soaking water pulls these compounds out along with potassium, useful for blood pressure regulation, and boron, which supports bone density. To make it, soak 2 tablespoons of organic dark raisins in 2 cups of filtered water overnight, roughly 8 to 12 hours. In the morning, strain and drink the liquid on an empty stomach before breakfast. It comes out lightly golden and mildly sweet, genuinely pleasant, not medicinal tasting at all. I think this might be the most underrated drink on the entire list, mostly because raisins get filed under lunchbox snack in most people's minds and never get a second look as anything more serious than that. The people who first relied on this drink didn't have a mechanism to explain why it worked. They just noticed, generation after generation, that it did. The explanation was always there. It just took modern science a long time to catch up and find it. Let's move now to a seed that shows up in one of the strangest, most miraculous food stories in the entire Bible. 9. Coriander Seed Tea. When God provided manna in the wilderness, arguably the most miraculous food event recorded anywhere in Scripture, Exodus 16:31 compares its appearance to coriander seed. Whether that's a precise botanical comparison or simply the closest reference point available at the time, coriander seed earning a mention inside the story of manna is not a small detail. Coriander, the dried seed of the cilantro plant, has a long medicinal history across Egyptian, Persian, and Israelite cultures. It was even found among the burial goods in Tutankhamun's tomb. Modern research has picked up on something the ancient world could sense but never fully explain. genuine anxiety-reducing effects. Animal studies have found coriander reduces anxiety-like behavior at a level comparable to the pharmaceutical diazepam in those models. Its most fascinating modern application, though, might be in heavy metal detoxification. Preliminary research suggests cilantro and coriander can help mobilize mercury, lead, and other heavy metals out of body tissues, binding to them and supporting their elimination, a genuinely relevant finding in a world with far more widespread heavy metal exposure than the ancient one ever had. Its digestive benefits are also well established. Coriander seed tea reduces intestinal spasms, clears gas and bloating, and supports the liver enzymes involved in detoxification more broadly. To make it, lightly crush a teaspoon of whole coriander seeds with the back of a spoon to crack them open, then steep in boiling water for 10 to 15 minutes and strain. Drink it warm, ideally first thing in the morning, as a gentle daily cleanse. The flavor is warm and faintly citrusy. Honestly, far more pleasant than most things labeled medicinal tea. It shows up constantly in biblical-era cuisine, for the same reason it shows up constantly in traditional cuisines around the world today. People noticed it made them feel better after eating, and that observation, repeated across enough kitchens and enough centuries, has never once turned out to be wrong. One drink left, and it's tied to one of the most famous bad trades in the entire book of Genesis. 10. Lentil Broth. Then Jacob gave Esau bread and lentil stew. Genesis 25. 34 is usually taught as a cautionary tale. Esau trading away his entire birthright for a single bowl of red lentil stew because he was starving. But that reading skips over something important. In the ancient world, lentils weren't peasant food you settled for. They were survival food. Dense, filling, shelf-stable for years, and nutritionally exceptional. Centuries later, God even instructs the prophet Ezekiel to include lentil. The prophet Ezekiel to include lentils in a specific mixed grain bread recipe in Ezekiel 4:9. Further proof of how seriously this humble legume was taken. As a drink, lentil broth made from slow-cooked red or green lentils pulls the soluble mineral and protein content directly into the liquid, concentrating iron, folate, zinc, magnesium, and potassium into a form the gut can absorb almost immediately. It also delivers plant-based protein compounds that support muscle repair and steady energy. Modern nutrition research confirms lentils carry a remarkably low glycemic index relative to their carbohydrate content, and regular legume consumption is one of the strongest predictors of healthy aging that population studies have identified. The so-called blue zones, the regions of the world where people consistently live the longest, all share one dietary habit in common: large, regular amounts of legumes. As a drink specifically, lentil broth is warming and grounding in a way that seems to speak to something genuinely old in the body's sense of what nourishment feels like. To make it, simmer red lentils in water with cumin, coriander, and garlic for about 45 minutes, then either strain off the liquid or blend the whole pot until thin. Season with salt and lemon, and drink it warm, whether as a recovery tonic, a light meal during illness, or just a daily mineral-rich drink. I started making a version of this on weeks when I know I'm not eating enough vegetables, and it's turned into a strange kind of comfort food. Esau gets remembered as the man who made an impulsive, foolish trade, and maybe he was rash. But looking at what was actually in that bowl, his instincts about the lentil stew itself weren't wrong at all. He just picked possibly the single best food available to him at the exact moment his body needed it most. Looking back across this list, what stays with me isn't really any single recipe. It's the pattern underneath all of them. Real people, in real moments of physical need, reaching for something specific, something that had already proven itself useful to the generation before them. Nobody was guessing. This was accumulated, tested knowledge, passed down, the same way a family recipe gets passed down, except this recipe box happened to survive for 3,000 years. A quick, honest note before you go. Try any of these. The quality of your ingredients changes everything. Raw, unfiltered honey and vinegar work differently in the body than their heavily processed grocery store equivalents. Fresh hyssop and dried, year-old hyssop from the back of a cabinet are not really the same plant anymore, biologically speaking, even though they look almost identical. And if you're pregnant, on medication, or managing an ongoing health condition, it's worth checking with a doctor before adding any of these in regularly, especially the more concentrated infusions. I'd love to hear which one landed hardest for you. For me, it was the hyssop, mostly because I'd read Psalm 51 so many times without once stopping to ask what hyssop actually was, or why David specifically reached for it in his lowest moment. There's something genuinely comforting in all of this. The people who wrote these words down weren't guessing about how to survive. They were paying very close attention. 3,000 years later, we're only now catching up to how right they were. If this changed how you read one of these verses, drop a like, tell me in the comments which drink surprised you most, and subscribe so the next list finds you when it drops.